What's up? If you've got a project manager, I'm going to show you how to replace your project manager with some numbers, with some math equations. So this is a story or case study about a client that I helped. So we're going to go over the problems they were facing, the high-level implementation of how I did this, and what tools I used. Talk about partial versus full automation, and in terms of how this was implemented, some change management considerations for how you get buy-in for the people that you are partially replacing their jobs. How do you get them to like it, and what challenges will you come across? So the business was a content marketing agency. They had a huge load. So seasonal work, 20 to 90 pieces of content per day, ranging between 250 to 2,000 words. Each were different topics. And 50 to 80 freelance writers that were all paid based on the number of pages. And to manage all this, 3 project managers working shifts covering 24 hours. So in terms of the end goal, the end state, what did I do here? So I have a consulting agreement with this client. I do automation stuff for their business, but from time to time, I just check in with the owner and say, hey, like, what are you spending your time on these days? What's going on? Tell me about this thing. So I'll tell you about the end story and then backtrack and tell you about why it was done this way. So I developed an algorithm that would recommend a specific writer that is most likely to be able to take on the project based on a number of factors. So the experience level of the writer, so the size and timeline of the project, and also everybody else's workload. So small projects, big projects, everybody else has different availability. The productivity level, the historical productivity level of each writer over the last couple of weeks. And we use that to estimate capacity. And then also some performance indicators. So the level of responsiveness, timeliness, and quality of each writer's work. And that we did that on a rolling 2-week basis so that people could improve and be forgiven for past transgressions. We also tracked holiday versus sick time. And then also for training, like this business has quite a high seasonality rate. Sometimes people quit, and so there's a lot of turnover, a lot of new hires as well. This client went from, I helped them go from about 80K when I first started working with them to now in 2022, they did 280. I'm not sure what he's on track for 2023, but a lot of new hires, and so we wanted to get those new hires up and running quickly. So for easy projects, we tended to send, or the part of the procedure was the algorithm would send the easy, not tight timeline projects to the new writers so they could get ramped up quickly. This was all done automatically. So I'm going to show you how. In terms of the benefits, did it work? Yes. So we definitely saved time for the project managers, about 4 to 8 hours a day, because of course you have 90 projects coming in. Each one takes some decision time to figure out where it's going to go. Okay. Projects started much, much sooner, right, in terms of the consequence of sending a project to a writer who could not take it. We were able to start the project sooner, which meant the whole team had higher capacity. You're kind of cutting writer and project manager burnout. And then, of course, the automated solution actually made better decisions. So we were 8% late, whereas a human was likely to choose a writer that was going to be 30% late. So we picked more on-time writers, and in fact, we were early by about 10 more hours. So we're getting stuff done. We're better assigning to a writer who's more likely to be available, more likely to do it quickly, and we had some stats there. The project managers at first thought this was impossible. They thought it was a special case, and it was not so simple, and actually it was. I'm going to show you how. Okay, we have a blank page here for style. So if your business uses words, or in your process, in your SOP, if anywhere in your SOPs, anywhere, you ever use words like make a decision, use your best judgment, distribute. So if you have stuff like short form content, text content, TikTok videos, you do social media posts for a lot of people, you have to do scheduling or distribution or things like that, this is probably going to apply for your business as well, or a very similar solution. So let's just kind of backtrack. This is so that's the kind of the high level. Let's get into more detail. So their existing process, they would have a project come in. It would be one, right, from a marketplace, kind of like Upwork sort of deal, sales page. And then the project manager would look at the details and say, okay, what is the topic for this project? Like who are the writers that are going to be good at this topic? Of those writers, who's got a lot of work right now, who's about to be done a project, who is consistently done very high quality work, is submitting stuff on time. The leadership would report back to the project managers and say, hey, send less work to this person. They suck right now, or their quality is going down. There would be a lot of coordination back and forth about priorities, and it wasn't always clear who to send the project to. Okay, so they would consider, of course, as I mentioned, topic, workload, and then also the writers. They're freelance writers. They're getting paid based on the page, and a lot of them live in poor countries, honestly. So they were requesting work a lot of times. Okay. The problems they were experiencing. I only noticed these because I check in with the owner a lot. We talk a lot about what they're spending a lot of time on, and we think about ideas for how to make their business more effective. So here's the thing, okay? You have some writers that, their work is good enough. They have no money, and they want, of course, as much work as possible. They're very ambitious people. So some of them were very ambitious. So they asked for a lot of work. The problem was these people would slowly get more and more and more overloaded. The project managers would just send almost everything their way because they were the most reliable people. The project managers could always trust them to save their ass. So these people then got burned out, and they got burned out at the most critical times when everybody was needed. They have to they're like, I can't handle it. They would quit, all these things. All right. There was also, I suspected, lots of extra coordination between the CEO and the project managers about who's new, who needs more work right now, who's whose quality is going down. And they were talking back and forth about whose priority should be adjusted in real time, who sucks, of course. And then also, these writers, this communication is happening asynchronously. So the project manager would email the writer that they thought was the best fit. And then if that writer turned it down, it would take another 4, 8, 12 hours to reassign the project, sometimes even a full day. So this cuts into the amount of time that the actual end writer would have to do the project, which then makes their burnout worse and reduces the overall capacity of the team, and also makes it way more difficult for this company to do shorter time frame projects. So it just reduces the amount of work that they are capable of doing, frankly. And then, of course, you have decision fatigue. So if you have 90 projects coming in per day, and you have a third, let's say you have a third of those, you've got 30 projects on your 8-hour shift. Of course, there were spikes and stuff. There's a lot of decisions you're making during your shift. You're worried if you're doing it right. You're worried about all these things. That leads to the project managers being burned out because they're decision fatigue. All right. So you also have downstream problems. So lower capacity, of course, and then higher turnover because some writers are overworked, some are underworked. Right? The underworked ones are just underworked because they're not asking for more work, right? Maybe their quality is amazing. They just aren't loud enough. They're not the squeaky wheel. And then there's just way too much redundant communication. I want more work. I can't do this project. I don't have enough work. This person's new. Give them more work. This person sucks. Give them less. Okay? So lots of extra emails that are going around that are being caused by this problem. Now, I went to the owner, said, Tom, I think this manual process is stupid. I think I can make something automated that's better than your project managers, or just as good at the very least. And he said, and they said, it's not that simple. But they decided to trust me anyway. I had been working with them for a year and a half, 2 years at this point, and they had seen what I was capable of doing. So I'm here to tell you, if you think your business problems are not that special, you think you're a snowflake, it is really simple. Here is the principle to remember. Every business decision, right? Every coordination, every prioritization, there's just a series of math equations. So, okay, so here's some examples of things that they told me that they thought sounded complicated to them. So there was one writer, his name is Jason, he does a lot of stuff, right? So, you can't just, it's not as simple as who's got how many projects, because Jason's amazing. He has a lot of projects. It looks like he's at capacity right now, but he's amazing. He's very fast. He does high quality work and he responds very quickly. Wonderful. So, current workload, sum of the pages per hour for each project, very simple math. So a 1-page paper is, in a week is less of a workload than in a day. Capacity, we estimated capacity. Well, a capacity is estimated by a writer's output in the last 2 weeks. And we either adjust up or down. We adjust up if they're doing high quality work. They're not making quality mistakes. They are doing stuff on time. And they're saying yes to projects. They're not denying projects. We adjust down if they did 10 pages or whatever, and they say no to projects, they're making mistakes, and they're late. And then we just keep on rolling it. It's always in flux. And very simple, if capacity, like theoretical capacity minus current workload, which is free capacity, is greater than the current project, they can take the project. Right? Here, theoretical capacity is up here, actual workload is here. We just look at the gap. And we adjust the theoretical capacity based on historical performance over time, right? So that is the mathematical expression of this emotional statement. Okay, here's a really fun one for you guys can remember your high school or university math class. All right? If a writer tells us they're busy, we generally wait to give them projects again. So this is also math. We mapped out this equation, and I said, hey, does your decision-making process look like this approximately? So we adjusted the actual capacity. So that's theoretical capacity times this nonlinear equation here. So it's not, the statement of it's not that simple for your business. It may not be linear, but it might just be nonlinear. All right? It's still math. Okay, so here's an interesting one. We don't care how fast they reply as long as it's fast enough, right? So they had this sort of nonlinear exponential decision-making process, right? If they're getting back to us in 24 hours, that's really bad. We don't like that. But hey, if it's 2 hours, 1 hour, that's not so much of a difference. I mean, 1 hour is better, but it's not that much better than 2. And this is the mathematical expression of that. Again, these are all just equations that we multiply together to formulate the score for each writer and adjust how important each factor is. All right. But Dave, this one topic, Dave is really good at this topic. Okay. So we also got one like, sometimes people don't. Sometimes the client doesn't categorize the topic correctly, and we, the super special snowflake project manager, has to go in and look at the text and try to understand the text. And that's a super special human thing. It's not. So for these two problems that they addressed, I said, no problem. We'll make a list of topics, right? And we'll configure for each topic the regular, there's a text description for how to detect whether this topic is true for this project. And then we'll also say for this topic, here's some writers that are excellent at it and they're specialists. Here's some other writers that hate it. And then also configure which topic needs a specialist or which topics can be done by anybody. So this is how we got around that. Okay, so I hope by now that I've convinced you that the super special snowflake, I'm an amazing project manager, my judgment is king and I whatever, I'm better than a machine is just incorrect. So here's the high-level math of who's the best, right? So we formulated an aggregate score based on how fast they tend to reply. Again, this is all just like linear and nonlinear equations. If they're so kind of speed and receptivity and quality and timeliness. So that's how we rank it. This is how it's the automation works. So we would get an email in from the payment processor saying, hey, you got a new project, and it would have some project details on it. In Make, which is kind of like Zapier, but I think 10 times more powerful, I detected the information about the project. In this case, the most important stuff for this calculation was the timeline, the size, and the topic, and determined whether it was okay for a newbie to take on or not. If it's small and easy enough for a newbie, and we have newbies that are available, we want to ramp them up as quickly as possible because those projects are the only ones that newbies can take right now. So we prioritize that. In Airtable, store the project details, and then that's where the writer prioritization calculation happened. And then we create a draft email. We don't actually send the email because we want to allow the project managers the ability to change the recommendation if the calculation made a critical mistake. And then when they send the email, we also read the email that was sent in Make again and store the writer that it was actually sent to in Airtable. Right? The second part of how this works, and there's other parts of how this works as well. I talked about quality, which is another video. But the second part is tracking the real-time workflow of the writers, and we do that with also tracking with Make and Airtable. So when the writer sends an email back that says, hey, I can do this project, confirm or deny, we again adjust the real-time workload of the writer, right? Because they now have a project or they don't. And then also writers submit the project. And so they say, hey, I'm done, right? Here's a draft or whatever. Make scans the project for quality mistakes and sends it back to the writer. We change the status in another direction. Or if it's complete and it's okay, then we think, hey, this project is totally done, and we reduce the writer's current workload, which then enables them to take on new projects. So in this way, the really cool thing about this, right? And I'll talk about change management in a second. Let's talk about like incentives, right? Incentives. So the really cool thing with this is it like automatically trains writers to do what we want, right? Which is on time, high quality, responsive. So we're automatically training with a robot the team to not complain and not be a squeaky wheel, because if they want more work, the answer to more work is, hey, make sure you're on time, make sure you're high quality, and make sure that when we send you a project, you say yes to it and do so quickly. So if you have training issues, if you have people issues, consider that the solution might not be you like trying to do something better as a human. It might just be automatically creating the incentives with math to do what to have your people just automatically do what you want. Okay. So change management. Okay, change management when you implement something automatic is a thing. This is something that I dealt with a lot at like Mars and Nestle and these like big billion-dollar companies, because people have an opinion about how it should work, especially so in the case of my other clients, right? It was like people that had been working at this factory for decades, and they just expect it to work a certain way. Your team will also have the same thing. So in this case, there was two major things that we noticed. So one of them was emotional decision making. So if you have an SOP and you say, well, send it to the people that are good right now and don't have a lot of work, if you have multiple factors, that enables somebody to use their values, their emotions to decide, well, is lateness not a big deal, but like quality is, or vice versa. If you have multiple stakeholders here, everybody will have a different opinion about which one is slightly more important than the others. So when you develop, and when we developed a mathematical ranking that was just objective, and like it was just an objective, like, okay, 100 is better than 99, like this writer is better than this one right now, people had different opinions about that. So you're going to have to manage as a leader, as a business leader, and I can help you through this, but you will have to manage those expectations and make sure your team communicates about whether this is just simply a difference in values or whether they think this is something actually wrong with the equation, with the automation, and the automation needs to be tweaked a little bit, right? Tweaking is not a problem, like that's okay. But at some point, if it's just a matter of like person A thinks this is the ranking that's the best and person B disagrees, you as the leader are going to have to figure out which person is correct and manage expectations of the other people because someone's going to be pissed off. Okay. The second thing is fairness. So, for me, these writers are just names on the spreadsheet. I have no idea who they are. I've never met them and whatever. But if, like the project managers in this case, they actually had to deal with the emails from a writer that said, hey, like, I need a lot of money right now. I'm really poor. I just need all the work you can give me. Even though that writer was consistently late or consistently low quality, whatever, they would have their favorites. So people have this concept of fairness, of like, oh, we should give this person more because they feel sad. Whereas it's a benefit and a plus, or a pro and a con of automation. It's sort of emotionless, like it only cares about the things that matter to the business. So that is something as well. And then as well, people, if you're automating an element of someone's job, their daily job, some people will love that, some people will hate that. So if somebody has, and like my client ran into this, he had one project manager who was difficult and she just wasn't adding value. And this was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back. If you have people that have this is their current job description and you're removing this bit, if they can't grow with the role, they will feel very vulnerable and they will complain and not like it very much, right? However, if you have top performers on your team who never really like doing the tedious crap anyways, if they want to grow with the role, this just enables them to grow with the role more. So it will very quickly reveal who on your team is a top performer, who is on board for systemization and making the entire company more efficient, and who will drag you down. So that will be a wake-up call for you. So change management, those two things are what we notice. So if you have a business and you have complex systems, or you think they're complex, you think you need this, like a very bloated admin team to keep everybody straight, or the people that are your core team members are having to do a lot of like admin type work, and this is preventing them from doing the work that you really want them to do and the work that they really want to do. If your business is operationally slower than you would like it to be, and you need it to be more effective to unlock the next level of growth, you can book a consultation right here. Right, this is the link. I will drop the link down in the description of this video as well. If there is one thing that I'd like to leave you with, it's that math is cool, and the things that you think are complicated or hard to understand or require some kind of special human judgment or human ability to do, people really just think that because they don't see the math yet. So that's my job, is to help you see the math, implement the system so that these more tedious tasks in your business can just kind of go away. And that is all. The really cool thing is that even if your business is like kind of small, like less than 100K, if you have a lot of this decision-making process going on, unlocking this and automating this can make you a whole lot more money. So my client here for this one went from, I think, like 80K in 2020 to 280K in 2022. So that's $200,000 extra. And that's like, what's that, like 4 times bigger as a business? So lots of possibility there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop me a comment below if you have questions, or you can just also book a call here.